Hey, welcome back to another topic, another video, and this particular topic is going to be talking about the narcissistic good parent act. Basically, what we're talking about is whenever a toxic person who is, not really an involved active parent, or at least not doing it in a positive way, but they're out there playing that role, and that could either be the mom or the dad playing that game. And this came from a comment from a viewer, and it says it was basically just the question is how to deal with the parent that puts on a show but acts differently behind the scenes. And this is something that I definitely had to deal with, and I'll tell you right off the bat, it will drive you crazy whenever you see this act that's happening. And what's really frustrating is when you see people believing it. And you're flabbergasted because you're sitting here trying to navigate this situation, and then you have a toxic ex that is putting on an act. The thing is, you have to remember is that everything with a narcissistic personality type is all an image and it's all an illusion. So, I mean, if you think about that, why wouldn't they do that, right? I mean, they're going to try to put the best foot forward. That doesn't mean that there's necessarily going to be follow through, but the way you'll see this is they'll be, at a parent-teacher meeting and sitting on the edge of their seat, taking notes and nodding appropriately. And you know dang good and well that they're not going to do a damn thing. They're not going to help with homework. They're not going to do anything. We would hope that the person would be consistent in their behavior and portray who they really are. But again, the sad fact or the reality of this is they are going to put their game face on. They are going to doll themselves up and pretend like they are the perfect person, the perfect parent, the involved one. And the really hard part is they'll oftentimes come up and basically be like, well, I don't know why the other person is so stressed. Everything is just great, and you're like, what the hell, because damn good and well, 2 minutes after you walk out the door, that it's going to go back to normal. Or if as soon as there's not an audience, as soon as it's private again, that it'll be different. I mean, I've seen this in a bunch of different ways. I've seen this to where, the ex would say that they would be willing to do something, like even co-parent counseling, but no intention of really doing it, right? You put them on the spot. Oh, yes. Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. Of course. The kids are the most important thing to me, bobblehead thing. And then 5 minutes later, it's like the conversation never happened, or they don't care. The thing is that this will make you feel crazy. It will make you feel like you're losing your mind. You'll probably, just like I did, you'll ask people, am I going nuts? Is this really happening? Am I seeing this wrong? I mean, am I projecting too much on this? Am I overreacting? Am I looking at this situation and feeding into things or seeing things that aren't really there? And you know what? If you're having that, let me know in the comments below if you've dealt with that. Because I know I surely did. There were times where I just felt like I was losing my mind. It's like, this person isn't, why can't this person that's putting on this act be the person all the time? The thing is, you have to understand that there's really nothing that you're going to be able to do about how the other person, the other parent, acts or behaves. You also have to be really careful about pointing it out, because what I mean by that is, I would say that if you're dealing with let's say a parent-teacher type situation, you might want to just have a private conversation with the teacher and just say, hey, look, things are really complicated. It's a high conflict divorce. This is, you're having problems with consistency and stuff like that. You got to be really careful, because as soon as you do that, then the person can also look at you and be like, oh, okay, it's one of these situations, right? And they don't know who to believe. You ultimately have to let your ex's actions speak for themselves. Now, you can kind of you can set the framework and say, hey, look, there's some problems. I hope, and the way I would do this to try to mitigate the potential for, I don't know if blowback's the right word, but just to try to maintain my credibility, is say, hey, this is a complex, high conflict divorce. There's not really any co-parenting. This is a situation. If you can break through and have, like with the parent-teacher thing, you can have a good relationship and communication with the ex, that would be outstanding. But here's the pattern of behavior that's been there. Just be really careful, right? And then, like I said, then just let the actions speak for themselves. Don't go in there constantly trying to point out every little thing that the other person is doing to try to recruit everybody to see the reality. If they want to see it, they'll see it. If they don't beat yourself up about it. Okay, so this then rolls into, okay, so how do you deal with this? And I'll tell you that in the beginning parts of this, I didn't understand what I was dealing with. I was not doing a very good job on all of this because I didn't know, right? I mean, I was going through what a lot of you guys, when people ask questions like this, I was at that mode back then. When I say that mode, I mean, I was at that stage to where I couldn't make sense of it. I was flabbergasted by the act that was being put on. I mean, an example I can give you early on. I mean, this is like, the separation had just started. I mean, I don't even know if we'd had our first court date yet, but I'd seen all the documents saying that I'm a scumbag and an abuser and all those things. And then we would go to a school function and the ex would be like, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, sit right here. You can sit right here. Why don't you want to sit right here? Whenever that the person behind closed doors is saying that they're scared of you, that you're violent, that, they're considering, she never did a protective order, but considering it, and it screws with your head, because then you have somebody that's not acting like you're a monster. In public, they're acting like everything's fine. And the reality with this, or the thing that you need to remember, and this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, you have to remember that it's all an act to them, right? And then use their inconsistencies, or allow their inconsistencies to help you. So for instance, when I was being all freaked out and worried and, basically gaslit on the whole thing, it wasn't helping the situation, because actually it made me look more crazy. No one was looking at it going, oh, this defenseless little butterfly, it's just flapping her little wings and is all happy and smiles and man, what's wrong with this guy? And it sets a weird narrative, right? I mean, think about it. If I could have thought about it more clearly, if I could have just been like, okay, fine, this is all BS. It's all an act. We're in a situation with both of us together, and people are watching, and there's nothing wrong. She thinks nothing wrong. Great. I mean, effectively, now you have witnesses that will say, well, they seem to be getting along fine, right? It's just one of those things where you can't control what they're going to do. A narcissistic, toxic person, or somebody with borderline personality type traits, they are going to try to orchestrate a plan to make you the victim, them the victim, you the abuser, and try to paint that picture. And the crazy part is you would think that when someone's doing that they wouldn't want to be around you. They wouldn't put this act on. And I don't know, in this particular situation, this person might have been talking about it in the context of just every time they go someplace, they just, everyone's like, oh, wow, that person's the parent of the year type of thing. It's just more than likely when someone's asking this question is because they're seeing it or they're hearing about it. In my situation, I was seeing the behavior. I guess I was kind of hearing about it too. Not so much, because most people could see the inconsistencies. Again, let their actions speak for themselves. Now, okay, And I kind of been hinting on this, so now let me dive into how you deal with this. You remember who they are. You remember it's about their image. And you don't need to try to destroy their image. Their world is their fantasy. Don't get sucked into their vortex of chaos. What you want to do is make your life as stable as possible. You want to make the lives of your children as stable as possible. And you want to focus on building the most solid relationship you possibly can with your kids. Honestly, guys, if you can do that part, it will work wonders in making things better. It may not seem like it at the time, but it really does. And it's really simple. And the problem is that, but when you get caught up in trying to play in their playground, so to speak, it affects your stability and how you're perceived, including with your kids. So the simple answer on this, you're almost better off, and I'll put a link for my black hole thinking video if I remember. If not, you can search for it on the channel. You're better off not focusing on what the ex is trying to do or what they're doing with the kids. Your best bet is to focus on your situation, what you have control of, and making that the best possible thing that you possibly can. It's a super simple concept. It's really hard to do in practice because you're irritated. You're like, hey, this is a freaking act. This person is pretending to be parent of the year, and I want to expose it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And I've seen this. I mean, the flip side to this, I've seen this with people saying, somebody won't be. Another example of this is somebody will be not exercising visitation. They're not seeing the kids. They're not. The time that they have, they won't do it. They won't exercise it. And then at the same time, they're on social media posting about how they're being denied access to their kids, that they love their kids so much, all they want to do is spend time with them, and that the other parent won't let them. And you're like, what? You know what? It's just one of those things where it's not worth going down that road and trying to expose them or trying to even worry about what they're trying to do. It's really tough because I've seen this in so many different ways, right? I mean, the flip side is that you have a parent who wants to see the kids, and the other parent is not allowing it, but at the same time saying that well, so and so doesn't ever want to see the kids; they never come by, and you're thinking, well, I never can, I'm trying to, or I had a friend of mine who got set up with this trick where they made the visitation when he had to work. And he's like, well, I work these days. Can I see the kids these days? Nope, you will see them these days. These are the days. And if you don't exercise your visitation, then I guess you don't care about your kids. Then you lose your job, and then you can't pay the support. And then it's just this nightmare. Honestly, no matter what the hell they're doing, your best focus is how to make yourself as stable as possible, and as find your peace. And then whatever time you have with your kids, you exercise it. You do what you can. I don't care if it's 2 hours or if it's just a FaceTime call. And if the other person gets angry and it's like, you've talked enough, then just be like, oh, hey, hey, buddy, if you're talking to your son or whatever, or hey, honey, hey, great talking to you. I'll talk to you the next time. And just don't get into an argument about it. I mean, the person's trying to control you, trying to get you to react, trying to push your buttons. And a lot of times that's what this is. Whenever they're putting on a show, they're also hoping that it will drive you crazy to where you do something that they can use to then validate their point. Even if they're not going to use a protective order or whatever, but they can just say, oh, look, see Bill, see Susie, see they act. I mean, wow, see, that's the way they act. That's what I have to deal with. It's a really tough one. Again, just to summarize this, for the narcissistic person, it's all about their image and their act. You can't control them. Focus on yourself and making your situation, and no matter how bad or good it is, as good as it possibly can be. And don't get caught up in their vortex of chaos. I'm curious if other people are feeling this and dealing with this. I'd like to hear about that in the comments below. If you know somebody who's struggling with this, and this is super common, share this video with them because maybe it'll give them some insight and some ideas on how to deal with their particular situation. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell notification so that YouTube will actually tell you about videos. If you like what we do here, you can become a channel member. You can do that down below. And I'll chat with you on the next video. Take care.